Merhaba tanıştınız.
Dur ya hemen record. Dear YouTubers, once again, you're at the Real Turkey channel. You now know the spiel. This is your regular host, Atilla Yaşılara. Today, we're honored to have a guest, Mr. Mehmet Ogutcu, former diplomat, energy expert, global politics expert, and chairman of the London Energy Club. Has a resume and a list of books that stretch over at least one wing of a library. Mehmet, welcome to our program.
Thank you, Attila. It's always a privilege to be your guest in this program.
It's mutual.
It's an honor to talk to you.
Oh, come on now. Now, obviously, the main focus of this program is Turkey, but we're not an island in the ocean. We're intimately connected to geopolitics and, of course, to the global marketplace. This is why we're going to talk about the world after COVID-19 and its impact on Turkey in between. Mehmet, I just read an article in Bloomberg about the new economy post-COVID-19, how fiscal policy replaced monetary policy and how debts are going to be repaid, etc., etc. But I don't want to limit you to a certain issues. You describe the main features, the peaks or the hills in the topography of the post-COVID-19 world.
Well, Attila, as you know, in all our discussions, private or public, we both agree that Turkey is inextricably linked to the global system by virtue of its economy. Turkey is the 16, 17, 18 largest economy in the world, however you define it, and 6, 7 largest in Europe. And Turkey depends heavily on the inflow of finance from the outside world because domestic savings are very, very low and weak to fuel Turkish growth. And also energy-wise, this is my pet topic, of course, Turkey depends on the imports of foreign energy, be oil, 93%, natural gas, 97%, and also Turkey doesn't produce its own innovative economy. In technology-wise, we depend also heavily on the external world. And I don't know any Turkish company, except in some of the defense industry specific areas, Turkey is not a technology producer. Yeah. Hence, wherever you turn, even in agriculture, which we consider Turkey one of the 7 self-sufficient countries in the world, is no longer so. Even the basic foodstuff we have to import. So in such a country where dependence on the external world is so heavy, how could you ignore the global dynamics and the trends that will affect you directly, not indirectly? So that's the reason why I think you asked me this question, how the new economy that's emerging in the post-COVID-19 era will be affecting all of us.
Yeah.
I believe that we all underestimated what a pandemic could bring to us, positively or negatively, because this is the worst crisis we have experienced since the Great Depression and the Second World War. Before that, remember, we had the Spanish flu, which killed 50 million people. And after Second World War, we had so many pandemics, be in Asia, Africa, Ebola, remember it?
Right.
And however, we have not prepared ourselves properly.
That's true.
Such a pandemic. And COVID has destroyed so much in our stability, predictability of the future. Many people started to talk that we are moving into a new era, which will be full of uncertainties and risks. I agree with that part.
Yeah.
However, I don't think that we should be so optimistic about the new era that is going to emerge in front of us. So COVID-19 will bring, or is bringing already, of course, but will bring further instabilities, further changes that will be difficult to manage. And it might also bring some opportunities in certain regards, because in Chinese, I always say there is one single character which symbolizes the opportunity and the risk at the same time, depending how you read it.
I'm going to ask you just a little parentheses, but that I have always been very curious about this. It's probably anti-Chinese propaganda. Is it also true that there is only a brushstroke difference between stranger and victim? You
No
don't have
comment, no comment on that. I think you can say
okay.
that.
So let's start with China. I think most of us who watch this program see the fierce competition between United States and, to a lesser extent, EU on one hand, and Russia and its ally. I'm sorry, China and its ally Russia on the other hand. But it's much bigger. I see India, Taiwan, Japan, Australia getting involved, and it is also happening at a level where we don't see it. For instance, a cyber attack on American meat plant or an American pipeline. And also a Russian report that possibly other foreign state actors are attacking Russian vital facilities to steal information or to sabotage it. So there is this sort of like from old Star Trek episodes, multi-dimensional chess game between almost all the great powers in the world. How is that going to affect the future that we're going to travel?
Well, the new geopolitical order has not been redefined clearly. And there is also need for redistribution of global power. And this has not been done yet. For one matter, China, we have to see China in three ways. Either China is a great danger, it's a great risk, it's a red peril to the world. Therefore, we have to do everything possible to fight China.
Haven't heard that since McCarthy days. Go ahead.
That's one way to see China. There are people who see China that way, by the way. And the second China is China is an opportunity. Look, I mean, 1.4 billion people, that's a market for you. You can invest heavily. You can use it for your supply chain. And China is a big consumer of energy, food, and mining, and what you have. Therefore, it's an opportunity for us. We have to work with it. And the third one is business as usual. Look, however it develops, it will continue. My personal opinion is, if you ignore or try to undercut a re-emerging nation, I'm not saying emerging, re-emerging nation like China, and if you don't provide sufficient space in the global governance, economically, politically, technology, trade, investment-wise, then this is going to be a restless power. And I think we are unfair towards China, because 1 in every 5 in the world is Chinese. Let's not forget that. And China, in many regards, in terms of production, of manufacturing and industrial technology, in technology, artificial intelligence is the number 1 in the world. All the EU nations plus US combined cannot make one China in terms of how much they spend on artificial intelligence or renewable technologies. So don't belittle, don't look down China. It is the major power that has to be reckoned rather than seen as a threat, risk, and what you have, at a red peril. If you have such a mindset, constructive, positive mindset, then the logic follows that you have to work with China in harmony. Of course, it's going to be a threat for you in trade, technology, military, oceans, space. They are the ones who send the astronauts to Mars, you remember,
Right.
a couple of days ago. So therefore, it depends how you see China. If you see it as a threat, it is going to be a confrontational world. China will not sit idly and wait for the US or EU combined to contain it.
That's
in
true.
Pacific, in Atlantic, in South Asia, using Japan, Korea, Taiwan, some Central Asian nations, and India as sort of barriers that can contain China. So China has a great interest in the global system. If you work with China in harmony, you can find a middle solution.
I think, again, do correct me if I'm wrong, it comes down to what rules are applicable to the new order and the role of values. Sort of what is democracy, what's human rights, what's workers' rights, etc. Do you agree with that? And if you do, can one find a middle ground on which both sides can work together and achieve a common denominator?
Again, let me play the devil's advocate.
Sure
if I
do,
may.
yeah. Oh, please, Paul, please do, yes.
Since you are the angel now in this dialogue, let me play the devil's advocate. Well, China, I think we owe a great debt to China for feeding, energizing, providing shelter to 1 in every 5 in the world. And the world order currently we are in has been established after the Second World War. By whom? By victorious nations of the Second World War. Bretton Woods, NATO, you remember, Council of Europe, everything else. So it's a Western-dominated system in which there is no room for China or India, for that matter.
Yeah.
However, now, these two nations leading the growth and the future as we see it, if you ignore them, if you leave them behind, they are going to be the revisionists. So who wrote the rules of the game? Not China or India.
No, exactly. I mean, this is
why
why
should I respect the rules prepared by the victorious powers of the post-Second World War era? That's the reason there is a need for a restructuring, redesigning international governance, redistributing power in that sense. But US and the Europeans will never accept that peacefully.
Oh boy.
They already have it.
Now we have come to the forecast part. So may I read words into your mouth and say that one feature of the post-COVID world is intense competition between these two axes that may harm economy or even technological evolution. Are we looking sort of like at a scenario where the world was separated by the Iron Curtain, only this time at many more levels than it used to be?
I think it was a wonderful period, looking back. War era.
Yeah, we knew who the enemies were.
The Soviet Union, there is the United States, and the satellite nations around them. So there was enormous degree of stability.
Right.
We knew what was going to happen. Not even one shot was fired. We had all these nuclear intercontinental missiles and conventional weapons, and what you have, nothing happened. Funny enough, in the post Cold War era, the only time a Russian jet was shot down, it was done by Turkey.
Thank you. We're proud of that. Thank you.
Turkish F-16s, shot down Su-20, the Russian jet. This was the only incident in which a NATO nation and Russia was involved. But now we have asymmetrical battles.
Yeah.
So I think no longer we will be fighting, except in certain places by proxies.
No, I think that the threat of mutually nuclear annihilation still holds for both sides. So there is no probably global war, but
I think it's there, but we used to call it in the Cold War era as MAD, M-A-D, mutually assured destruction.
Mutually assured destruction. Yes, I'm sorry.
I think this was a great deterrence for both sides. Now, since there is no iron fist on top of the nations, bashing them and preventing them, now you have all kinds of wars, from Yemen to Africa, Pakistan, India, Latin America, wherever you go. Then terrorist threat now is bigger than the traditional conventional warfare. Now the real battlefield is in technology.
Right, that's where I want to get to. Okay.
If you want to fight China, you have to excel in artificial intelligence. You have to excel in the batteries, lithium ion batteries. And you have to excel in gaining access to cobalt, nickel mines rather than oil and
rare earths as well.
Rare earth, all these minerals. And you have to also excel in how you explore the space, oceans. So it's no longer your F-16s or your Patriot missiles, tanks. These are things of past. Still, of course, we'll have them, but these are things of past. Today, you remember perhaps an Iranian-supported group of Yemenis flew 10 drones against Saudi Arabia. They wiped out half of the Saudi oil production and facilities. And you know how much it cost, perhaps?
About $1,000 at Amazon prices.
Maximum, 10 of them, they probably paid about $1 million.
Oh boy, okay.
Saudis had trillions or billions of dollars of worth, anti-missile systems and all you have, and it wasn't effective at all. Today, you mentioned also this pipeline in the US through cyber attacks. And so the US, certain states were deprived of oil. There were long queues in front of the gasoline stations. And the same will happen. I mean, Turkey provided support to Azerbaijan against Armenia. The Turkish drones, I think this is something that we should.
I think it changed the military doctrine.
Changed the whole doctrine. Now, I received so much requests for my company to look into that. How come the Turks got this well, and how this technology could be spread around or modified? So we have a quite strong competitive edge in this area right now. So
let me ask. I'm sorry.
Similar in energy, food, military technology, space technology. So if you want to be reckoned as a global power, it's not just by megaphone diplomacy and rhetoric. It's going to be through such technological advances, and that's going to revolutionize the marketplace, but also your global positioning.
Let me just sort of move to Turkey here. Obviously, not every nation can create its own technology. Most of it will be purchased, acquired, or borrowed from these great powers. Maybe not 2, but 4 or 5. Do you see a future where obtaining this technology will no longer be a commercial affair, but also conditioned upon belonging to a certain strategic alliance? For instance, would China say, look, you want my 5G technology, you want my AI technology, while I want certain political favors, or is that not a concern?
Well,
because that's important. I think for Turkey, that's very important. I don't see a foreseeable future during which will be sufficient in the kind of technologies which would propel Turkish economic and social development.
But the way things are in Turkey, we are quite backward in terms of technology. There are exceptions. I don't disregard them. But overall, if you look at Turkish exports, the share of technology or value-added part are very small.
4%, roughly.
4%, that's nothing. So by selling agricultural produce, textile, car spare parts, you can't win in today's world economy. You will be trapped, as we know, this middle income trap, not going beyond $10,000 GDP per capita. So look at Korea, how they have done it. I mean, to advance in technology, you have a couple of prerequisites. One of them is you have to do industrial espionage somehow. Steal the technology. It's not politically correct, but this is how Japan, Korea, Chinese, they have done it. And secondly, you have to have a country in which freedom of thought, to have opposition, contrarian brains dominate. We need crazy people like you, like me, and others. Yeah. We can challenge the traditional notions. Otherwise, if you have a disciplined society doing just whatever you ask them to do, there will be no innovation, there will be no invention. So, unfortunately, we don't have it. Then, if you are in certain, as you implied, alliance, adopting certain values, then you have a better chance, because Turkey, I don't think, will have any chance to adopt, develop, progress in technology by partnering with China or Russia. They will not share it with you. But if you're in the Western camp in such a way, you are not a passive, loyal ally only, but a real power and fully committed and attached to the values that this alliance has, then I think there is better chance of adopting these technologies through human capital enhancement as well. It's not that...
No, obviously it's a two-way street. There's push and pull factors. Once again, small digression here. Do you have any views on how the Biden versus Erdogan meet on the sidelines of NATO summit on 14th of June might progress? Do you expect any kind of positive development, or do you expect the current frenemies situation to continue?
Well, this is a subject that I discussed with my group. I'm the chairman of International Advisory Board of Middle East Institute, based in Washington, D.C. Very close.
Is there any organization where you're not active?
That's
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, go ahead. Don't answer me.
Well, if you want to follow what's happening in the world, you have to plug into the system, because I'm on also Belt and Road Initiative Advisory Board in China. This is in the US and in Europe. Therefore, you don't talk from the textbooks. You talk directly to practitioners and get the first-hand analysis and feedback. So what I see is that we attach so much importance to Biden-Erdogan dialogue, which will be in the margins of the NATO meeting, as you said, on 14 June. And I don't think Biden attached the same importance as President Erdogan to that, because he knows President Erdogan and Turkey too well. So we don't need to brief him or anything else. This is what Americans tell me. So they have a clear policy vis-a-vis Turkey, and which is not to engage extensively as things go. They are not happy with the way things are run in Turkey, but also they recognize that vis-a-vis Russia, China, Iran, and ISMED, US will need Turkey. So it will be a continuation of transactional relationship. And I think we are reversing our policies somehow in Turkey. Some tensions with Russia, we see the results in the Russian tourists coming or not coming, in vis-a-vis Ukraine, and Putin was very angry about that. In Syria, Libya, Iraq, Iran, I don't think we see eye to eye. Then developments in the Black Sea. And I see signs that Erdogan is shifting towards more and more European Union and United States, having realized that China, Russia will not provide a substitute of what Turkey needs in Europe. I mean, 60% of our markets in the European Union. And the bulk of finance that's to come to Turkey is from the US and European Union, not from China or Russia. So therefore, I see a significant reversal or U-turn of our policies vis-a-vis Egypt, Saudi Arabia. Erdogan is talking directly to King
Tut
of Saudi Arabia, rather than the Crown Prince bin Salman, Mohammed bin Salman. And Qatar is playing a facilitating role, which I heard from the Qatari. With Egypt, we are talking. With Israel, we wanted so much improvement of relations, but what happened in Al-Aqsa probably is going to delay this somehow. But Turkey has belatedly realized that it has to be a soft power, assertive soft power, rather than flexing its muscle all the time, military power, hard power. Because if you are in such a position where you heavily depend on the rest of the world, and there is so much at stake in your relations with EU and US, then also neighboring nations, in this geography, it's no joke, Turkey is the largest and most powerful regional power, all the way from China to Germany, Russia to Saudi Arabia.
True.
But we don't know how to use our brain muscles, probably.
Exactly.
And that's the challenge. Now I think we are learning this. I don't know whether with the current mindset of the Turkish government, you can make such a U-turn, because there's a serious issue of credibility.
Yeah.
And neither Europeans, nor Americans, nor Russians, nor Chinese, nor Middle Easterns trust Turkey. I think probably it's a mutual feeling, and Turkey doesn't trust them either. Therefore, Turkey has to emerge as a nation who knows what it wants in the next decade or so, but also to be inspiring trust. Because like in our individual relationship, personal, interpersonal relationship, the same holds true in relations between the states and the leaders. I have to trust them.
Can we briefly say, if I understand you correctly, Turkey's transactionalism and this strange dance between Russia, China, and the United States is over? We have to commit ourselves to one of these blocks?
We will be forced to do so.
Exactly. Okay.
Because the Americans will tell us, like George Bush used to say, you are either with us or against us.
Why does every leader say that? Why can't they say, well, you know, let's fine, just take it easy. Okay, let's move on to the next subject. Which I'm sorry.
Turkey,
go ahead. No, please
Turkey
go ahead.
is in such a position where our traditional breach concept could be used, because we can talk to Putin directly, no matter
Right.
how hard it is. We have bitterness. We can talk to Xi Jinping.
Right.
We can talk to Saudi king, despite all this rhetoric against Turkey. With the Iranians, we can still talk while talking to Brussels and Washington at the same time. Therefore, if Turkey is credible, trustworthy, with its own power, imperial backbone, I think we could be an excellent go-between while protecting and enhancing our own strategic interests at the same time.
Which we had done until the Arab Spring, which spoiled us. I want to move to an issue which, to be perfectly honest with you and to our audience, is much more important than what happens between all of these countries, which is the greening. I can't even find the word. Just simply look. Are we going to care about the environment and the climate change from now on, or is it just another fad like working from home?
Well,
That COVID broke.
It was like this until a few years ago, I guess. And we run from one meeting, one summit to another about the climate change. We signed all these conventions, agreements, and summit declarations. However, for the first time, climate change has become such an important topic, a requisite, which, like it or not, you have to adopt in your business decisions or government policies. If you don't do it, you will be subjected to sanctions.
ESG, yeah.
Serious sanctions. The Green Deal, take Green Deal, the European Union developed back in 2019 in Brussels. And if you don't adopt the Green Deal, which involves moving away from the fossil fuels towards greener growth and renewables, and then you will be penalized. How? Because if you are exporting 60% of your products and services to European Union markets, they will stop you at the border if you are not using renewable, cleaner energy. If you want to access the financial markets, capital markets of Europe, they will ask you, where are you going to use this money?
Where is your ECG statement?
ECG statement. So if you don't have the right answer, you will be prevented from accessing these markets, where it is a life and death matter for Turkey. We don't have money at home.
Yeah.
We rely heavily on external finance.
And I think
Likewise,
it's also, yeah.
It's going to be like the Copenhagen criteria.
Right.
That's used for democracy and freedoms. And now Green Deal and climate change benchmarks will be used as a political pressure instrument.
There is a problem, though.
Just one thing I want to add here before moving to that. You know, Turkish position. Turkey has signed the Paris Climate Change Agreement of 2015, but since then we have not approved it, ratified it in our parliament.
We were too busy with Istanbul Convention.
Sorry?
Never mind. We were too busy with Istanbul Convention.
But now I assert here that, as you know, in November there is going to be a climate summit in Glasgow, United Kingdom. If Turkey doesn't ratify it by then, there will be huge implications for us.
Yeah,
And I can bet with you that Turkey will ratify it before.
I agree with you. There is a problem here, though. I mean, we are surrounded by nations, and correct me if I'm wrong on my perception, like Russia and the entire Black Sea littoral, as well as Iran, who don't really care that much about these things, or maybe they are too poor to be able to care about these things. And climate change is not something that you can control within your borders. It has to be at least a regional effort. Do you see Turkey bringing together an alliance, for instance, in Eastern Med or in the Black Sea that would help us facilitate? Um, well, we can't stop climate change, but at least we can slow it down.
Well, if you don't count on three countries in the world that are the biggest emitters of carbon dioxide, number one is China, number two is United States, number three is India, then comes European Union, or four blocks. Then whatever the rest of the world is doing is meaningless. But thanks God, when I was working for OECD, we put a lot of pressure on China
Right,
to come
China.
to the table for climate change. They always said what Turkey is saying today. Well, we are a poor nation, we need to develop, and you messed up the world, and it's our turn now, to use manufacturing and heavy reliance on fossil fuels. We can't do it. But now China has emerged as a leader in climate change matters, using it for commercial purposes as well, technologies. And Turkey is using these arguments right now not to ratify climate change. Therefore, I don't think that it's an option for
Right.
Turkey or other nations, Russia, Middle Eastern nations, East Med nations. So there is no prospect for creating an alliance that will slow down or reduce our commitment to climate
No, I
change.
meant exactly the otherwise. Can we convince the Black Sea nations and Iran and etc. to cooperate with Turkey to mitigate climate change?
Well, I think if Turkey works itself to mitigate the effects, I think US, China, and the European Union will do a much better job of convincing other nations. They are already doing it in Russia and Ukraine.
That's good.
They have a program for India and Gulf nations, Middle Eastern nations. So as I said, it's no longer take or leave it,
Yeah.
because we are affected globally, all of us.
Right.
Therefore, there will be huge pressure on all of us. And we have to see this as an opportunity. Why? Because Turkey doesn't produce any fossil fuels, very small amounts.
Yeah.
So we are going to be fortunate if we can transform our heavy industry, polluting, energy intensive industries, moving away from them and coming towards more smarter, cleaner industries, technologies. It is a win-win for us. It's an opportunity, I believe.
Let's finish this interview with the positives that you had underlined at the beginning. Right, mitigating climate change or stopping environmental damage is expensive, but it's also very lucrative in the sense that it creates just a whole vista of new industries like this electrical windmills. I don't even know what they're called, or electric cars, etc., etc. How do you see that developing? I mean, could there be a point in the say next 10 years where the gains from fighting climate change in terms of private sector investment or government aid overcomes the costs?
There will be, I
or,
think,
or the innovation therein. Go ahead.
I think dirty fuels, which they call also fossil fuels, dirty technologies will go away gradually. It is going to be a very, very painful and costly transition. You
No.
can't do it cheap or easily. It's going to be bloody revolution towards cleaner energy. And today, I think let's not also overrate the importance of renewables. Today, in the world's energy mix, the share of renewables, tell me, what is the percentage?
I don't think it's more than 10%.
5%.
Yeah, I
And
agree
by
with you.
2025,
People confuse growth rates with the stock, the distribution of. Yeah, go ahead.
still we have the 85% of the world energy based on fossil fuels. How can we do away with this? No. Of course, gradually the share will be reduced for coal, oil, natural gas, I believe, will be more neutral, stable.
Yeah.
But there will be huge increase in solar energy, photovoltaic, and steady increase in wind power. And then the petrostates like Venezuela, Russia, US is number one, as you know, in natural gas.
Yes.
Petrostates, I believe that they are around 900 million in the world now, and they will be dithering away. And this is going to be very difficult for them. For us as well. Imagine Caspian nations, Middle East nations, East Mediterranean, Russia, and their revenues come from fossil fuels. And they will have very tough time 10 years from now. And but countries like China will be number one because this is an electro state, not petro state.
Right.
China controls 85% of the solar technologies, 45%
Awesome.
of wind, lithium, cobalt, nickel, refining. So China will be firing the shots in the next decade or so, unless, as part of a conspiracy, internally we create so much instability and risk within China so that they will be looking inward and not do anything globally. This is also an option, of course. West is trying to do that. I don't know whether they will succeed or not. But I think if a peaceful evolution is allowed to move and take place, China will be the significant winner in this transition. That's the reason why EU nations are also working very hard.
Everybody is. Again, let's finish this with another note. You said, or so I understood you, that after COVID, it's not going to be roaring 1920s. Obviously, debt is one of the problems, but I think I can think of permanent unemployment. Technological innovation is good, but it also substitutes for labor, which cannot be easily placed in different industries. How do you see the next 10 years in terms of economic evolution, just in brief words?
I think it's going to be a difficult period, at least for us, our generation.
Because if I were receiving $2,000 in aid checks each month, I wouldn't be holding this conversation.
Because we have accustomed to a certain way of doing business. We had our, captive clients. We had our captive industries, and our skills were deployed for certain purposes. And we are going to be on the loser side unless we also transform ourselves. However, I feel pity for younger generation as well, because there's no job certainty. The smarter ones, brighter ones, of course, will have their best chances in technologies, in finance, and new careers professions. And therefore, there will be significant gains for certain people and significant loss for greater number of people. This will bring instability. This will bring unrest, unfortunately, for those nations who can prepare better with smart leadership. I think will be the winners in this new world. Therefore, for Turkey, this is what I keep saying. Turkey is a very important nation on earth. We are not a global power, but with 1% of population, GDP, investment, and trade flows, but still we are a very important nation. We need to move away from where we are now quickly in order to be on the train, fast train, because things are changing. We are in a world where the key word is speed. Before, things could take 20 years to realize, but now in 1 year, 2 years, we have enormous changes taking place. And Turkey has to adapt to it, especially by enhancing its human capital.
I completely, you described Turkey as a bridge between cultures, which is certainly true, but I look at it from a different perspective. I think Turkey is sort of a laboratory to see whether Western values and capitalism and democracy and Eastern values of, sort of paternalism, respect for state, as well as, of course, the whole, Muslim religion can live together peacefully and enrich themselves. So in that sense, too, I think, more than being a global power, just being an example of that we can prosper in this unique mix of culture is as important as stretching our muscle in Libya.
But Attila, this is how Turkey was perceived as a
Yeah, until
in this first 2 terms of the current government, AK Party administration, and Turkey was seen as a soft power. Turkey was an inspiring model of a country combining free market, Islam, and modernity. They loved it. Right now, the image, right or wrong, perception is reality always, is
unfortunately.
not very positive around the world. Wherever, I mean, I travel a lot. Wherever I go, I see that Turkey is seen as a nation which is creating troubles for itself and for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that way. And also, I agree with you that what matters is not Turkey being the largest economy, the most powerful military. Turkey should be a nation which is at peace with its neighbors in the region, but also which has happiest people
Right.
in its borders.
It's called quality of life, for Christ's sake.
Quality of life. This is what people are looking, not the largest, biggest army and strongest economy, but people feeling happy in the country. If you can provide that, prosperity, security, and happiness, that's the biggest nation that you created on earth.
Thank you very much, Mehmet Ogutcu. Well, this has been another broadcast of Real Turkey Channel. We talked about the post-COVID world, politics and economy, as well as where Turkey can fit in if it is smart. If it is smart, that's the idea. I want to thank Mr. Mehmet Ogutcu, who is the chairman of the London Energy Club, a close friend, and a man who thinks about the future all the time. Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's my pleasure. Okay.